So for the first 3 nights of sleep training, I did try the cry it out method, but it just did not work for my son. And I think it's because we hadn't tried sleep training before, so he just didn't know what to do. When he was upset, he was just standing up and crying in his crib, and he would try to turn off his hatch, and he would just be upset, and he didn't know to like lay back down and try to go back to sleep. So I figured last night we needed to try a different approach. And then my son's issue with sleep is that he will sleep for a stretch of time, like he can sleep maybe 6-7 hours. But then when he wakes up, he'll wake up continuously. Like he'll wake up and then I'll have to go comfort him, and then he'll wake up 10 minutes later, he'll wake up 5 minutes later, and he'll do that 3 or 4 times in a row. So I'm hoping that if I can sleep train him, he can learn to self-soothe and be okay with kind of connecting those sleep cycles and not waking up that many times in a row. So it is sleep training day 4, and my son is literally down for a 3-hour nap. I don't know how he is still asleep, but I'm not waking him up because I'm working from home today, so him sleeping makes my working so much easier. This may affect him going down for bed tonight, so I am interested to see if a super long nap makes any difference on what time he's gonna wanna go down at. We do have a swim lesson today, and we usually get home from that around 7-ish, and then we have to eat dinner and do our whole bedtime routine, so I imagine he won't be going down for bed until after 8, but we'll see. So I ended up starting to try to put my son to sleep at around 8 o'clock. So at first I fed him for a few minutes, and then I was like, okay, it's time to go to bed. And he was in a really good mood. He was like giggling and rolling around and just not even trying to go to sleep. So after about 5 minutes of trying and just telling him, okay, it's time to go to sleep, and sitting next to him and rubbing his back, I decided it was best to probably leave the room and try the approach that I ended up doing the night before. So I left the room for about a minute. He got upset, he stood up, he cried, but then I went back in the room and I told him, okay, it's time to go to bed, and I laid him down and I sat next to him, and he ended up falling asleep within like 3 minutes of that. So it was really, really successful. The night before, I ended up having to do that about 4 times before it ended up working. I am interested to see if he ends up waking up throughout the night at all. I do aim for about 12 hours of sleep for him. I think that's what's best. So with the time he went to bed and with his super long nap, he should get about 12 hours of sleep today. So last night he woke up from 1 to 3. I kept going in the room to try to comfort him for about a minute each time, and I kept increasing the time that I waited to go in the room. The issue was that every time I went in the room to comfort him and tell him it was time to go to sleep, this time he did not lay back down. So he would lay back down because I put him down, but then when I was getting ready to leave the room, he would pop back up and he would not stay sleeping. So he was just basically crying on and off for those 2 hours. And then the last time that I went in the room, he ended up just being so tired that as soon as I laid him back down, he fell asleep, and then he ended up sleeping until 6 a.m. Someone suggested looking on a subreddit, so I might check that out, or I'm gonna see if on another video that I posted about sleep training, someone left a suggestion. And yeah, it was really tough last night. Like going down wasn't bad, but it was this sleeping through the night last night that was just not happening. So I just put my son down. It's sleep training day 5, and someone suggested that I watch It Takes a Village, and she does everything based on sleep science instead of like the cry it out method, which is what we had been trying for the last couple of nights that was not working out for us. So based on sleep science, I decided to really pay attention to our Owlet app, which tells us when my son should go to sleep at night. The only other point that she brought up was that maybe your kid is getting too much sleep, and that's why they're not sleeping through the night. So instead of aiming for 12 hours or more, I decided that I'm going to aim for about 11 hours of sleep for my son. So tonight I pushed his bedtime just a little bit later. Normally the Owlet said he should go to sleep at 7:20, but if he went to bed at 7:20, that would have been almost 12 hours of sleep, and I wanted him to sleep through the night, so I pushed it to a little after 8 o'clock, and we're gonna see how he does tonight. So my son was up at around 4:30, and then I would say he was in a light sleep for about 20 minutes. And then finally he was like, nope, I'm up for the day. We're done. So I'm gonna look back at his sleep for the last couple of days and try to see what seems to be like the ideal amount of night sleep for him. I'm guessing it's close to 9 hours, so maybe I just need to push his bedtime later to get him to sleep longer during the night, or I just need to make his nap shorter during the day. So we pushed bedtime, I think, as late as we possibly could have. I ended up putting him down at 8:20, and he basically went to sleep within like 2 minutes of me trying to put him to sleep. And going to sleep at 8:20 puts him just under 11 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. So fingers crossed, this is like the ideal amount of sleep for him, and he'll sleep fully through the night and not wake up at like 4:30. So my son was up at 5:50 this morning, which is so much more manageable than sometime before 5 a.m. So I'm really happy about that. He had a total of 9 hours and like 20-ish minutes of nighttime sleep, and then 10 hours and 35 minutes of sleep in a 24-hour period. So if you are struggling with having your kids sleep through the night, I recommend exploring potentially reducing the amount of sleep that they're getting in a 24-hour period, because I know a lot of people talk about overtiredness, but it potentially is that your kid's just getting too much sleep and they can't make it through a whole 8-9 hours of night sleep because they're just not tired enough.